Hi everyone, it's Mr. Kwan here. Today we're going to be talking about perimeter. A perimeter is a measurement of the length of a shape's outside edge. In this section, we will specifically be looking at rectangles, but the idea of a perimeter can be applied to other shapes as well. In many situations in your life, you will need to measure the perimeter of a space to determine how much product you will need to purchase to complete a project. List some examples here of perimeter measurements you might need or have needed to calculate. So I will give an example for myself. I bought a home in 2018, and in the living room, shortly after I bought the home, my dog chewed up the carpet in the living room. And so I needed to purchase a replacement flooring for my living room. So let's say, this is my living room and my dog chewed up some of the carpet. So I ended up buying hardwood floor to replace that. And around the living room, I wanted to put a trim along the floor. So my trim wasn't actually green, but here I'm putting it in green to illustrate the difference between the floor and the trim. So that is kind of what my trim ended up looking like. And I needed to go to Home Depot and tell them how much trim I needed. So I needed to basically add up all of these sides or calculate the distance measured there so that I could give those measurements to Home Depot. So that's an example of when I needed to use perimeter in my life. Let's look at example 1. It says DeWitt has just adopted a puppy from the local shelter and must enclose the backyard with a fence for the new pet. They plan to use 6-foot fencing sections that are available at Home Depot to fully enclose the backyard. Below is a blueprint of a house. Use the legend to measure and calculate the perimeter of the fenced yard. How many feet of fencing will be needed? All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. We are only concerned with the backyard, so the blueprint for the rest of the house is not super important. So I'm going to take this ruler and measure. So with the way that I have it right now, the length of this orange strip is about 0.8 centimeters. So the distance from the big tick mark to the next big tick mark is 1 centimeter. So notice that it's going 1, 2, 3, 4. It's hitting the 4th tick mark. So that means that the way that this is scaled, 0.8 centimeters is equivalent to 3 feet. So we need to know that scale so that when we measure the length and the width, we can scale that up. So I'm going to measure this here. And so I'm going to line that up with my ruler. And let's see. So this is 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, and 5 centimeters. So because this is a rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and put it on this side. So the length of the backyard is 5 centimeters, which we will need to convert to feet so that we can calculate how much the fencing sections are going to cost. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and measure the length. Okay, so let's see here. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then a little bit after 9. So that would be 9.2 centimeters. So this is 9.2 centimeters. Okay, so we have the length and we have the width of our rectangle, and now we need to convert that to feet so that we can figure out how many we need to get, how much feet of 6-foot fencing we need to get at Home Depot. So really, if you look at this orange strip here, Home Depot only sells the strip in 6 feet, so it'd be twice as long. So like something like that would be 6 feet. All right, so If 0.8 centimeters is equal to 3 feet, then we are going to need to set up a proportion in order to solve or convert the length and width into feet. So we know that 3 feet is equivalent to 0.8 centimeters. And we want to convert 5 centimeters into some amount of feet. Now notice that I put a question mark. You can put an X or whatever you would like there. And the way that I'm going to find this is, notice that I have an equal sign here, and I have a 5 in the denominator on the right side. So what I could do is I could multiply this by 5 centimeters and multiply this by 5 centimeters as well. And so this, because that's in the numerator, will divide with that. And on the left-hand side, we will be left with, so the right-hand side will be question mark is equal to 5 times 3 over 0.8. And that will give us the equivalent value of 5 centimeters in feet. So let me pull up my calculator. All right, so here's my calculator, and I would like to find 5 times 3 divided by 0.8. So I'm going to hit that on my calculator, press enter, and we get 18.75. So that means that over here, 5 centimeters is equivalent to 18.75 feet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this now. And we want to do the same thing for the width. So we have 9.2 centimeters. So we're going to do the exact same thing. In order to get the question mark by itself, I'm going to multiply the right side by 9.2 centimeters. And so that will divide with that. And then on this side, I want 9.2 centimeters. And so our equation will become question mark is equal to, we want to do 9.2 times 3 divided by 0.8. So there we get 34.5 feet. Okay, and again, I'm just going to erase these calculations here. So we've gone ahead and we've calculated both of those values in feet. And now what we want to do is we want to find the perimeter. Now, the perimeter is the sum of the lengths of all of the sides. And so I will highlight that here. So I want to take basically that plus that plus that plus that length. So the way that we're going to do that is basically we have the perimeter is equal to the top length, which is 34.5 feet, plus the left-hand side length, which is 18.75 feet, plus the right-hand side length, and since this is a rectangle, that's also going to be 18.75 feet, plus the bottom length, which is 34.5 feet. So if we add all of those up, we get 34.5 plus 18.75 plus 18.75 plus 34.5. And that is 106.5 feet. Okay, we're not quite done yet. The fencing come in 6 feet lengths, and they are $150 each. So now what we have to do is we have to divide this by 6, because that will tell us how many fence posts we need. So if I take that number and I divide it by 6, we're going to need 17.75 fence posts. However, you can only purchase them in whole numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to need 18 fence sections or fence posts. I'm going to call it 18 fence sections. And so here we can answer this part. We're going to need 106.5 feet of fencing. So that answers that first question. And then the second question says, if the fencing sections cost $150 each, how much is it going to cost to fence in the yard? So if there are 18 fence sections and they cost $150 each, we are going to have to multiply this by 150. So we're going to do 18 times 150, and that gives us $2,700. So I'm going to come down here and put 2,700. So total cost will be $2,700. So that's the final answer for the second question, and that completes example 1.